Hey there, it's Shauna. I hope you're doing great. Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for October 9th. So this week is all about building power and inner strength. So I'm really excited to share the astrology of this week with you, and then I have 3 tips for you to have an amazing week. So the first aspect that we have that's earlier in the week, like Monday, Tuesday, is we have the Sun and Mercury squaring Pluto. And so the sun is our life force. It's what we're focused on. It's what animates us. You can think of it as like the spiritual spark that keeps someone going. It's kind of like your heartbeat. And then Mercury is our conscious awareness. It's our mind. It's our intellect. When the sun and Mercury come into contact with Pluto, we're confronted with situations around power and control. And so this is because Pluto is really about power. Other themes that are associated with Pluto are unconscious motives, unconscious desires, the shadow, as Carl Jung talks about the shadow of the psyche, things that we're just unaware of about ourselves, good and bad, or positive and negative. Pluto is also associated with sexuality, and this I think is because sex is really about power in many ways. It's like that power dynamic that happens when 2 people come together, and so this week there is this element of like working out how it is that you use your power, how it is that you use your own sense of inner authority, and does that work for you? Do you feel powerless at any times, or are you exerting your power in a way that is helpful and positively influential, or is it maybe like an abuse of power in any way? And this can be in all different ways. This can be physically, emotionally, mentally, and psychologically as well. It can be very subtle. I know for people that are having a Pluto aspect, this will probably bring up more things than others, but we're all going to be feeling this theme of like, how is it that we use our power, and how is it that we feel in control of our lives, and then how can we use that to influence others in a positive way. The other aspect that's happening this week is we have Jupiter moving into Scorpio. And so this is important because Jupiter, it only changes signs about once a year. So this is like a special thing that happens this week. Jupiter is about our faith. It's about our spiritual connection. It's also, it also is what allows us to expand our awareness, expand our minds, expand our view. For this reason, Jupiter is associated with travel and study, and any way that we like expand our current like understanding of reality and what it is that certain things mean to us. So with Jupiter being in the sign of Scorpio this week, and then a whole year, Jupiter is going to be in Scorpio. We'll have options to get really deep into why it is that we understand certain concepts, why it is that we have a certain faith or belief system, and what, like, to even like understand that more deeply, to understand ourselves more deeply. And I think this is a really nice pairing with this week, because we do have that Pluto energy, which is kind of intense and asks us to dig really deeply into what it is that motivates us at an unconscious level. And so with Jupiter moving into Scorpio, there's even more of that, and this is something that, again, we'll get to explore over the whole next year. So if that wasn't enough, we have also Mars and Saturn coming together. So Mars is going to square Saturn. So this is dynamic, this is action-oriented. Mars is about action, it's about assertiveness. Mars is about drawing boundaries. And Saturn is about commitment, devotion, and what it is that we are building. Another element of this is that Saturn can sometimes reflect where we feel a sense of limitation. And so boundaries may come up this week. That may be something that you work with. Like, how is it that you set boundaries on your time, on what it is that you have to give, and that can just be like social commitments. That can be setting a boundary on how much emotional energy you give to the people in your lives. And so all of these things are kind of like up for review, and not that like anything bad will happen or that you need to necessarily change anything. I feel like it may be more of just like how it is that you feel, how it is that you process things, and it may be like very subtle shifts that you find yourself making this week in order to preserve your energy, in order to feel more powerful. Like that's what this is really about, is that you feel powerful and that you feel like you are in control of your life as much as possible, at least. I know we're never completely in control. So all of that being said, like it's good to channel your, it's good to take action. It's good to channel your energy and to move towards what it is that you're committed to. Mars is movement, Mars is action, and then Saturn is that commitment element. So all of that being said, I have 3 tips for you. The first tip is to be aware of your fears and insecurities. And so this is really important because we have Pluto, which can reflect when we're looking at insecurities, unconscious motives, and psychological triggers as well. And then Mars is also about fear and self-doubt and things like this. So the more that we can be aware of fears and insecurities, the more that we'll be able to move in the world without those things hindering us, without those things kind of like yapping in the background. And I want to be clear that this does not mean that you need to get rid of fear. This does not this does not mean that you need to get rid of your insecurities. You still may feel those things, but I just want you to notice when you are feeling them. And so it may be as simple as just saying to yourself, you know, in your own head, like, oh wow, I'm really feeling a lot of fear, or I'm feeling a lot of self-doubt right now, or when I see that person or when they say that thing to me, I feel insecure. And that's all that you really need to do, because just that awareness is enough to create a little bit of a shift so that things change on the inside. So tip number 2 is, along with this also, to take empowered action. And so I've worded this very specifically, to take empowered action. Because this week I want you to watch out for if you feel like you're kind of like backed into a corner, or you don't have a lot of options and you're kind of like having to choose based on what's presented to you and not really what it is that you want, not really what it is that you're choosing. So I want us to like counteract that. I want you to, wherever possible, to choose for yourself what it is that you want to do, so that it's not like you're powerless and you're just like letting life happen to you. That's something that we could feel if we don't engage with our lives, and then we get into that victim complex, and you know, that can mean that someone starts to feel sorry for themselves, and then the power just dissolves even more. And so the remedy for that is to take action where you can, and to do it from a place of you're the one that's choosing this. You're the one that, even if your options are shitty, that, you know, you're choosing what it is that feels the best for you in this moment, and in every moment, really. So that's tip number 2, to take empowered action. And then before I share the last tip with you, I have a quote that I want to share with you. So this is from The War of Art. It's by Stephen Pressfield. It's for breaking through the blocks and winning your inner creative battles. So I love this book so much. I love a lot of things that he writes also. They're very inspiring, they're very practical, but there's also a lot of spiritual heart there too. And so this is a great book for anyone that is just like a human being. Even if you're not doing anything creative or artistic, it's very motivational and practical at the same time. So he says, and so this section, he's talking about resistance and working with these feelings of resistance, which we could also relate to fear and self-doubt and things like that. Resistance will unfailingly point to true north, meaning that calling or action it most wants to stop us from doing. We can use this. We can use it as a compass. We can navigate resistance, letting it guide us to that calling or that action that we must follow before all others. Rule of thumb: the most important a call to action is to our soul's evolution, the more resistance we will feel towards pursuing it. And again, this is the War of Art. I love this quote so much for this week because it is like where we feel a sense of fear or a sense of resistance. Oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, those are the actions that will really reward us and that are really important to us and that provide a lot of growth and evolution and satisfaction even. So I think that's also why it's really important to pay attention to the fear and the insecurities this week and to notice even like what circumstances those come up in. And again, always use your intuition and your logic to know what's best for you. But I thought that was a really cool little antidote for this week. And then Mel and I, we actually used this book for the theme of the podcast this week. So we used quotes and inspiration from this book on our weekly podcast. So tip number 3, I want you to share, put this into action, and let's see if we can help each other out too. So I want you to leave me a comment below and let me know, how is it that you work with resistance? So how do you deal when you have fear or insecurities that come up? What do you do, or what do you not do? I don't know. Leave a comment below, and it's maybe something that someone else could get something out of, or something that someone hasn't heard of before. Maybe we come up with all different kinds of ideas. So I would love to hear from you guys on what works for you. So that is your weekly horoscope for the week. I hope that you have an amazing day. If you enjoyed this video, please share it with a friend. I love to get these messages out to as many people as possible. And then if you want to go deeper into these themes, if you want to get some more of the details, you can listen to the podcast that I co-host with my friend Mel of Energetic Principles. It's called The Feminine Principle, Astrology for Authentic Living. And I'll have a link down below for the iTunes and the Podbean so that you can listen to that. And then, of course, if you want to get a reading, if you want to know more about what's going on for you personally and how to hash that all out, the best way to get in touch with me on that now is to send me an email for pricing. So I'm wishing you an amazing week and sending lots of love. I will talk to you soon. Namaste.